welcome to Up Close. Today we have author Joanna Weaver with us. Joanna, thank you for being here today.
It's great to be with you.
So Joanna, you have written a handful of books. What do you think is the hardest part about writing?
Well, maybe a better question would be, what's the easiest part?
Okay, we could do that.
Actually, writing's the hardest thing I do.
Yes.
It really is. I kept thinking it would be kind of like holy dictation, and I'd say, Lord, is that an and or a for? And instead, it's just like this audacious act of faith to put words on a page and to believe that God might use them. So it's hard, and yet I know it's my calling. And but I do love, surprisingly, I love editing. Really? I love having the words on the page and then shaping them and smoothing them and making them the best they can be. So that's my favorite part.
So were there any books that really influenced you or made you passionate about writing?
Well, honestly, I didn't ever expect to write. I love to read. And so if I have any qualifications or training, it's my love for books. But when I started really studying writing and trying to become a writer, I love Elements of Style by William Strunk, and there were some other ones that were, now they're so old, they're probably kind of out of date. But I took a magazine article writing class at the community college, and she just really taught us how to write clean and tight. I'm still not necessarily very good at it. Perhaps that's why I like the editing, because it kind of gets all of my words and cleans them up like they need to be.
So what's your process? I know for me, when I write, I have to be alone in a quiet room.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yep. I can edit and I can research in the midst of a crowd. That doesn't bother me at all, but I really almost have to have like a chunk of time. I call it like putting on a diving suit and going deep, because I'm not very good about really being able to write in the middle of life. There's too many distractions, and so God's blessed me with a couple of friends who've given me access to places where I can go to 3 to 4 days and really dive into a project. I'm getting better at being able to write in the middle of life, but definitely need alone time, definitely need to be able to really get my head around it for a while.
Sure. So one thing that I found really interesting about you is that you had a very special calling when you were 16 years old. Can you tell us more about that?
You bet. Well, I was at youth camp and really seeking God's will for my life. I had kind of gone through the whole dating game, and so I'm like, Lord, I just want it to be you. I just want you and you alone, and take this desire for a boyfriend away. And he did, miraculously. But I'm at the altar, and God gave me my one and only vision of this young man that I had admired. He was in a pulpit preaching, and then here came this thought, I wonder what it would be like to be a pastor's wife. Well, I immediately rebuked Satan, because I'm like, I just need to focus on God.
Right.
But the very next night, that young man came up and actually confirmed what God had spoke to my heart in so many words. He didn't know what was going on, but he had confirmed it. And so, long story, but I knew from that moment on that I was called to be a pastor's wife.
Right.
I didn't know if it would be that young man. Turned out it was.
How cool is that?
Turned out it was. And I love being a pastor's wife. It's my first primary calling. It's the thing that I feel most fulfilled. It's a blessing.
So one thing that I'm wondering, and I'm sure a lot of viewers are wondering, what's it like being a pastor's wife? I would think that there's a lot of pressure because so many people look up to you.
Right.
What's it like?
Well, no one has as many expectations of me as I do.
Sure.
I want to be so much more than I am. So honestly, that hasn't been a challenge. I've just, you know what, Lord, I'm yours. And so I guess there's always hard times, It doesn't mean that we've gone through ministry unscathed, but we don't get to go through life unscathed.
That's right, yeah.
And so are we going to hammer out forgiveness? Are we going to love when it's tough? Are we going to be available to God for whatever He wants? Not what people want, but what He wants. And as long as I'm able to kind of let that be my guiding force, I've found a lot of joy in ministry.
Now, you have 3 kids.
Yes.
Too, right? And the oldest and youngest are 17 years apart?
Oh, yeah. God works in mischievous ways.
Yes, He does. Very true.
I have to confess, when I found out I was pregnant, it was nearly 40. I did not handle it well. I kind of freaked out a bit. But you know what? I'm so glad that God knows what we need,
Yep.
not just what we want. He knows what we need. And Joshua is now 12 and just the joy of our lives.
What's your favorite thing to do with your family?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, we like to camp. We're from Montana, and so we like to camp and stuff. But, you know, just being together. I think my favorite thing is watching my kids become these amazing people, you know, and completely apart from my influence, just watching God work in their lives and shape them and their personalities and their giftings. It's probably my greatest joy.
Okay, last question for you. What is the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Well, there's been a couple of things, but probably skydiving.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, because I'm telling you, I'm like, you know what, why would you ever do that? That's just crazy, you know. But God had really been talking to me about trusting him. Do you trust me? And I'm like, sure, God, I trust you. He goes, no, do you trust me? And so, you know, that's really probably been kind of a life lesson he's been teaching me for the last 10 years. And so Jessica graduated from high school. We weren't going to get to do summer vacation, and we're like, they had always wanted to skydive. So we went, the four of us, John and myself and Jessica and John, Michael. Josh was on the ground and he was really upset. He was like 3 and he didn't get to do it. But, you know, it was a real freeing experience. I don't ever have to do it again.
Right, you don't have to, that's right.
But it was the most adventuresome.
You are so brave. I think that's the one thing that scares me the most, that I said that I would never do.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
I did too.
But did you feel God with you up there when you were about to jump, or? You
know, I think the thing was I was strapped to this very large man.
Right.
And so it wasn't the most comfortable thing. But I remember, you know, getting to that doorway and, you know, really probably a good thing that I didn't have to decide to jump.
Sure.
He jumped for me. But the cool thing was, you know, rather than that plummeting feel that I expected from my nightmares, there was the wind that held you up. And so you wasn't the plummeting, there was that pressure, and just realizing, oh Lord, those times you ask me to jump, you're with me.
Absolutely.
And it's not nearly as scary as I think it's going to be, because you know exactly what I need, and you're bearing me up. You're the wind of your spirit, all those wonderful analogies.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for watching, and join us next time on Up Close.